Well, Gavin, it's a point for starters. How was that for you today?
Yeah, hard work, obviously. You see the players and how much they've had to work hard to get that point. It's a difficult day. It wasn't pleasant to watch. I get it. We weren't offensively, like the Red Arrows. But look, my job was to come in here and really solidify the team, make us hard to beat. We've had 2 days. And I think that the players deserve a huge amount of credit for their hard work, their desire, the job and a half that they put in today. I'm very proud of them. I'm very thankful for their buy-in. We've had 2 days. So the first and foremost, we need to be hard to beat. And I think they showed that today.
You must be delighted with the clean sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I know we rode our luck a little bit, but I think the lads earned it. I'm not going to stand here and say that, that's the way it's going to be moving forward. We need to evolve. But first and foremost, I needed to come in, make us really solid, hard to beat. Yes, we rode our luck. But we have a couple of moments ourselves as well. Look, we've had players coming out of the cold. We've had players who are lower than a snake's belly. We're playing a team that have won 4 in 5. Got a real swagger about them. And if we'd have gone chasing them today, we'd have got hurt. So the idea was to be really strong and resolute out of possession. And I thought we were that. So look, I take full responsibility for the fact that we were particularly defensive. I asked the players to be so. Yes, we want to be better in the turnover and moving forward. But for the here and now, look, we've had 2 days with the players. They're in a hard place. They need some confidence, and I think they're in there now, understanding that we might have a half a brain and know what we're talking about. So, look, we want to be better moving forward and going forward. But for the here and now, we want to be resolute. We want to be hard to beat, and I thought the lads did that really well.
You clearly went with a very experienced starting 11. Was it difficult today when it came to selecting your team? You got quite a lot of options. Yeah,
really difficult. And no disrespect for the lads that weren't in at the start, but we needed a group of men that care, that want to do well. I think supporters sometimes get bogged down when players aren't playing particularly well. They don't care, but they're hurting. They're hurting at the moment when they're down there, and we've turned that around in 2 days. I think the players now are optimistic. They want to do well. They realise that we've got a foundation to try and work from, and that was what today was about. It was they're literally in there now, all like on their backsides. They've worked so hard, and isn't that what everyone wanted? Everyone wanted to see them working hard, working for the badge, and that was the big thing. When you've got me, Dave and Jamie stood there saying, you've got to run for the club, you've got to work for the club, you've got to run like the wind, jump higher than a mountain, all of these things, they've got to buy into that, and they really have, and I think a bit of credit needs to go on the players' names today. Everybody wants their pound of flesh when they're not doing well. Understandably, everybody's passionate about the club. We had to take the emotion out of it a little bit today, be hard to beat, resolute, and they're in there on their backsides. They've worked so hard, so hard. They know that we need to change and be better. We can't play like that all season, but once we get that bit right, we can start to move forward and build on it, and that's what I'm really pleased about today. So. And
you brought Sam Stubbs back in. We haven't seen him playing for a while. Mel Benning as well hasn't had too many starts in League Two so far this season. Were they big calls, and how pleased were you with their contributions?
Well, you tell me. I thought, for 2 defenders, I thought they defended impeccably well. I thought Stubbs' distribution first half was probably the best that we'd seen. In the first half, we were closer to them. We had a few more chances. We're talking about dominating the big moments, and we got tired. Second half, I get it. We're a little bit, on our backsides and defending our own box, but look, needs must at the moment. Again, I appreciate it. We want to be here, free flowing football. Look, we all want to get there. I want to get there. The players want to get there. But for the here and now, I had to take the emotion out of today, and I had to make us hard to beat. And really thankful for the players. And I think Mal is realigned now. I think he understands that I'm a fan of his and that he needs to be at his best in order to get into the team. I thought he did really well today. For someone who hasn't played at all to come in and play, was it 60 minutes? What a shift. What a shift. And then Stubbsy, I just thought was brilliant. What an ultimate professional. Looked like a proper defender. Him and Boyley back there, the roughs, just thought they were just solid. We looked solid. Distances were small. That's what I wanted.
And going forward, you're hopeful that things will start to click? You've only had 2 days, I appreciate that, and start to work the opposition defence a little bit more than you managed at times to do.
Yeah, of course. Listen, I get it. We want to be offensive, especially at home. No one wants to have chances and the excitement more than me. I'm a fan, so it was hard when I heard a few people disgruntled. It's hard, and I wanted to react in terms of going, right, we're going to get after them, but look, we had to be professional today. We had to do the job. I think people will look back and realise that there's a process building here. We've now got 18 games. That's a really good start. That's a real good foundation to build on. In 4 or 5 games, if we're that defensive and we have a lack of chances, I get it. I get it, but I don't think we will. I think now we get the chance, we get a free week to work on it. We need to give the players their energy back. We need to build into Colchester. It's a massive game. And look, we need to get points on the board. So, I'm really thankful to the players. They're all in there now recovering. I think they deserve a lot of credit. I'm hugely thankful. Dave's hugely thankful. Jamie's hugely thankful for their buy-in. I think now they'll trust us and that we can really kick on this week. So, the supporters as well, by the way. Like, what an ovation. What a welcome. I couldn't be more humbled. Couldn't be prouder. So, and as well for them to stand behind there when they get. Unfortunately, I can't give them their money back for today. It wasn't a performance that I'd particularly want to go and spend all my hard-earned money on. I get that, but for them to stay behind like that and give us so much credit for, what was a really hard-fought performance really shows that they know their stuff, and I'm thankful.
And how was the whole experience for you, the whole day? Special day, clearly. Your first game in charge of Shrewsbury Town, a club you joined all those years ago as a player, and here you are returning as head coach, taking charge for the first time here at Cloudmeadow. How was the whole experience? Yeah,
it's I've been focused, so I haven't really taken it in. It's all been a bit of a whirlwind. So, I suppose tonight I'll sit down with my wife and maybe have a glass of wine and prepare. We're back in again tomorrow, me and the staff. They won't be overly happy to hear that, but we've got to hit the ground running. We've got points to get. So myself and the staff will be in early in the morning. The players will obviously be recovering. But yeah, it's an absolute honour. I'm clearly ambitious, but I wouldn't have left Brackley for too many other clubs, and this was one that came calling. And like I say, I'm indebted to the chairman, I'm indebted to the club, the fans, and I want to come here and give something back. I want to make sure that we stay in the division. And look, I think you can see there, it's not going to be for the want of giving everything. We'll be the first in, the last to leave. We're going to give it everything, and we expect that from the players. And I thought they did that today. So it's a privilege and an honour to be here, and God willing, it continues to go as well in terms of what we wanted the output to be, and even better offensively.
And finally, the fans will want to know: is there likely to be any late comings and goings before the transfer window closes on Monday night?
You can appreciate we're coming in really late. We've probably got a couple of days. I haven't even had the chance to think about it up until now. So we've probably got tonight, tomorrow, and obviously deadline Monday. So if anything's going to happen, you'll be the first to know. But as it stands at the moment, I'll take a breath and maybe look through what we might be able to bring in and go from there. But as it stands, we've just been working with the players that we've got at the moment, putting everything into them, getting them to trust us. Hopefully now they trust us. And yeah, I'm not sure, but for the here and now, we've been focusing on today's game, so maybe it's a different conversation tomorrow.
Thanks for your time, Gavin.
Thanks, Stu.